Hi, and welcome to the Wordly Wise Lesson 6 video done by yours truly. So, our first word is anathema. It means someone or something that is intensely disliked, cursed, or shunned. Think of this as an abomination. Someone that is rejected from society, someone that's shunned, someone that's banished, something like that. Think of the women from the Salem witch hunts. Think of the Scarlet Letter. The main character, a young woman, was punished for adultery. She had to get the Scarlet Letter A on her body because of her crime. She is an anathema. Our next word is assuage. It means to satisfy or to lessen or reduce the intensity of. When one of the seniors applies to college, they need to wait several months to get a response back. But during those several months, they're scared. They're nervous. They don't know whether they got in or not. Several months later, however, if and when the letter of acceptance arrives, their nervousness is relieved. They're suddenly not scared anymore. They've been assuaged. And you can also think of this word in the physiological sense. You could think of drinking ice cold water on a hot day, or you could think of it as eating a burger after being hungry for a long time. You have an empty stomach, you have a big meal. That's what it means to be assuaged. Next word, avuncular. It means to be like a benevolent uncle, familiar and indulgent. Now, not all uncles are likable people. Think of Hamlet's murderous Uncle Claudius from Shakespeare's play. He's not exactly the nicest guy. But usually speaking, uncles are benevolent people. If not a bit patronizing at times, they're kind. A good person in the school who you could relate this example to is someone like Mr. McCrory. Those who've had him as a coach know he can be a bit much at times. He could be mean, he could make fun of you, but at the end of the day, he's benevolent. He has your best interest at heart. He's got that sort of vibe to him. He's got that uncle vibe. Next word, convivial. Cheerful or friendly. The book says sociable, concerned with good company and festivities. Everyone either is or has a friend like this. Everyone has someone who makes you feel welcome and comfortable in social situations, if you're not that someone. A good host, for instance, needs to have this trait. A good host needs to be convivial. He or she always needs to introduce his or her guests to each other and check up on them from time to time to see if they're doing well. Next word, eclectic. And it means combining elements from a variety of sources. You take something from here, you take something from there, you bring it together, and you have an eclectic assortment. Those who took AP Psych last year, which I think a lot of people did, know the word eclectic. They know it as eclectic psychology. Eclectic psychology is a combination of various approaches. It has elements from humanistic psychology. It has elements from behavioral psychology. It has elements from biological psychology. It has elements from evolutionary psychology. But it's not really any of these things. It borrows elements from these things, but it brings them together and forms eclectic psychology. Now, more casually, a funner example would be one of those Carl's Jr. American burgers you see on TV. You know those things, they have hot dogs in them, they have chips in them, they have all sorts of dressings and sauces. They have all sorts of snacks. It's an American burger. It borrows elements from a variety of American foods, brings them together, and makes an eclectic sandwich. Our next word, epigram, means a short, witty poem or saying. This word is pretty straightforward. Oscar Wilde, for instance, has some pretty cool, famous epigrams. He says there's no such thing as a moral or an immoral book. Books are well written or badly written. That is all. Also, there's little sonnets. There's stuff Shakespeare's written. That's a good example of this. Shakespeare says, "So all my best is dressing old words new, spending again what is already spent. For as the sun is daily new and old, so is my love still telling what is told." Those 4 lines are part of a sonnet from Shakespeare. The next word, intrinsic, means relating to the essential nature of something, real or actual. Now, intrinsic, I skipped the word, I'll come back to expound. Intrinsic means natural. An intrinsic quality of something has to do with its nature. An intrinsic quality of dogs is that they are loyal. Anything intrinsic comes from within. Doing a job because you like doing that job is intrinsic. The motivation doesn't come from outside. It's not for the money. It's not for the fame. It's because you like doing that job. It is natural to you. You want to do it. And the word I skipped, expound. Think of this video. To explain in detail, to set forth. Pretty much what I'm attempting to do right now. I'm making an effort to expound these words to you. The teacher expounds essay specifications so students don't get mixed up or confused. It's to explain in detail, to set forth. Next word, inveterate. It's an adjective meaning habitual or deeply rooted, persistent. It can be something that you feel the urge to do because it's deeply rooted in your psyche. If you're an inveterate doodler, your notebooks will be covered in doodles. If you're an inveterate speaker, like I am, you'll take every opportunity to run your mouth to express your opinion. If you're an inveterate golfer, you'll feel itchy. You'll want to go golfing if you haven't done so in, say, a week or 2. The next word, mogul. It's a noun. A very powerful or wealthy person. An example of a mogul is probably someone like Bill Gates. He's very rich. I mean, we've seen like pictures of his house on the internet. Everyone would want to live there. There's not a person in the world who would pass up that kind of money. And as we know, wealth buys power. Think of people like Saudi oil tycoons. You know, very rich people who control the oil in the Middle East and make billions, if not more. They make billions of dollars off of it. They're moguls. They're very powerful and they're very wealthy. They're usually politically active. Munificent, meaning extremely generous, liberal, and giving. Now, extremely generous. It's not your average run-of-the-mill type of generous. It is extremely generous. I mean, this isn't just dropping a few dollars into a donation box. Munificent donations are over the top. Say if you give your best friend a bracelet as a gift for her birthday, then you're a good friend. But if you give her a diamond bracelet, a racehorse, a car, and an oil well, then you're a munificent friend, meaning you're very lavish when it comes to giving. Nascent, beginning to exist, emerging. This is when something first begins to appear and displays potential for becoming even greater. Think of the space industry. It's not that old. NASA's been around for a couple decades at most. They emerged sometime during the space race, and they've been here since. They're still in their infancy. But think of all the things they will achieve 100 years from today. Think of the planets they'll be able to explore. Think of the magnificent pieces of machinery which they will create and invent. They are nascent. They're only beginning to exist, but they are emerging. They will become something great. Next word, hard to pronounce. I'm not sure how to pronounce it actually. Perspicacious. Perspicacious. I'm so sorry. So, clear-sighted, shrewd. It's a person who is always alert. So if a person had this trait, or an investor had this trait, they would have sold their, say, tech stocks long before the market crashes. They will know market trends. They'll be clear-sighted. They'll be able to know in advance what will do bad, what will do well, which companies have been doing well, and which companies have been doing poorly. They'll make clear choices because they're shrewd, they're alert. Philistine, one who is indifferent or disdainful of intellectual values. Think of, unfortunately, some Armenians today who have disowned their culture and don't speak the language anymore. They get upset if you try to talk Armenian. They get upset if you offer them Armenian food. Unfortunately, all of us know people like this. All of us know what it means to deal with someone who is Philistine, who is smugly ignorant of artistic or intellectual qualities. And the last word, propitious, tending to favor or assist, encouraging. Now, think of this as being timed well. When the timing of something is propitious, it's likely to turn out well for you. A propitious time for taking a big test is after you've studied well and gotten a good night's sleep. That is a good time to take that test. If you believe in astrology, for instance, which not many people do, but say you do, you might check your horoscope to settle a propitious day to, say, buy a car. If your horoscope reads well, and you believe that buying a car is favorable on that day, then that is a propitious day. A propitious moment to ask your parents for a game you want is when they're in a good mood. Not when they've come back from work all tired and grumpy. You ask them for a game in the morning, right after they've had their coffee. That is a propitious time to ask for a game. I think that's it. That was the last word. Thank you. See you tomorrow.